Because you know when there is a moment that changes everything about what you think you know about a person, when an adult child finally sees their mother or father not just as parental, but as a complete person. This is what happened to Riley Curry. Riley grew up seeing his mother as, well, as a mother, as a person who chose to stay home, as a figure who was always present, who cooked, who went to games, who was there. Riley respected this, admired this, but, honestly, did not question this very much. You can tell when there is a child who assumes that a mother's path was always her desire, that being home with children was a simple choice, natural, obvious, because that is what mothers do, is it not? Sacrifice. They just do it. But Riley was about to discover that the story was much more complex. This began by accident. Riley was visiting his childhood home, was looking for something for a project, was not looking for secrets, was not invading privacy intentionally. Just found something. It could have been a diary. It could have been a folder of old documents. It could have been a conversation that was overheard. It could have been a confidence from an intimate friend of Ayesha's. Either way, Riley was confronted with a truth that he did not expect. You can tell when there is information that is simple but devastating. That changes perspective not because it is dramatic, but because it explains things that never made complete sense. Because Riley discovered this, his mother had sacrificed significantly more of her life than Riley had ever understood. Not just in the early years, when Riley was a baby and small child, but continuously. Over years. Over decades, practically. You can tell when there is a list of sacrifices that is long. That is specific. That is real. Because there was the evidence. Business contracts that Ayesha had refused. Not one, but multiple. From companies that wanted to work with her. That offered opportunities. That said, come, build this with us. And Ayesha had said no. Projects that she had started that stopped in the middle. Ideas that she had, momentum that she built. Then, pause. Because there was a family that needed her. Trips to important events that she had failed to make. Conferences where she could have been. People she could have met. Networks she could have built. You can tell when there is a cumulative weight of small refusals. When each isolated no is not large, but together, over the years, they form a picture of an alternative life that was never lived. Friendships that she had let wither. Because being present for children meant not being available for meetings with friends. Meant not traveling to see people. Meant choosing family over personal connections. Riley read this and felt something that was difficult to name. Guilt, admiration, shock, all together. You can tell when there is a child who realizes, my presence in your life had a cost that I had never understood. Because Ayesha had not done this in a dramatic way. Had not said, look at what I am sacrificing for you all. Had done this silently, daily, without complaint, without asking for recognition, without using it as an emotional weapon. Had just chosen. Every day. For years. You can tell when there is a person who does something difficult every day without making it seem difficult. Riley began to see his mother differently. She was no longer just a mother who stayed home. She was a woman who stayed home. A woman who had opportunities and let them pass. A woman who had dreams and postponed them. A woman who had a professional identity and abandoned it. But not because she had to, because she chose to. You can tell when there is a realization that is profound. That changes understanding completely. But Riley also felt something more complicated. Because Riley asked himself a question that was fundamental. Did she do this because she wanted to, or because she had to? Is this love, or is this a sacrifice that became resignation? Because there is a difference, a big difference. If Ayesha had sacrificed because she was passionate about her family, because she truly believed that this was the right thing to do, because she chose it consciously. That is one thing. But if Ayesha had sacrificed because she felt obligation, because it was cultural expectation, because she had no other option, that was a very different thing. And Riley needed to know. You can tell when there is a child who wants to understand the complete truth about the motivations of their mother. Because if it was resignation, Riley wanted to validate it. Wanted to say, "Mom, you were unfair to yourself. You should have pursued what you wanted." But if it was a conscious choice, Riley needed to understand this differently. Riley needed to admire this. Riley needed to honor this. And this would determine everything that Riley would understand about her mother. Riley looked at the evidence again and saw something that he had not seen initially. Because there was no resentment in the documents. There was no tone of victim. There was no, "Poor me, I see what I let go." There was simply acceptance and peace. You can tell when there is a person who made a difficult choice and found peace with it. Riley felt something shift within himself. Because now Riley saw his mother not as a mother who sacrificed, but as a woman who made a choice. A big choice. Conscious. With eyes open to what she was leaving behind. And, having made this, never asked for pity. Never asked for recognition. Never used it against family. Just lived. You can tell when there is a person who chooses and then lives with that choice without complaint. Riley felt a need to talk with Ayesha. Not accusatorily, but honestly. Because Riley needed to hear this in Ayesha's own voice. Needed to see how Ayesha described her own story. And Riley needed to offer something that perhaps no one had ever fully offered before. Recognition. You can tell. When there is a moment that is a threshold. When an adult child is about to have a conversation that should have happened years ago. When a child will finally ask and listen instead of assume. Riley took a deep breath and decided that he was going to talk with his mother. Because a mother deserves to be seen. Completely. Honestly. And Riley was about to do this. Because you know when there is a conversation that needs to happen? When a son or daughter finally decides to ask instead of assume? Riley found Ayesha. It was not accidental. It was not casual. It was intentional. Private. Serious. Riley took a deep breath and began. "Mom, I found something. I need to ask you about it." You can tell when there is a moment that is a threshold. When a person is about to have a conversation that changes everything. Ayesha looked at Riley. Not with surprise, with calm understanding. "What did you find?" Riley showed the evidence. Documents, dates, contracts that were refused, projects that were stopped, opportunities that were left behind. "Mom, did you really give up all this?" You can tell when there is a question that is simple but carries the weight of the universe. Ayesha took a deep breath. And instead of denying or minimizing, she confirmed. "Yes, Riley, I did." You can tell when there is a mother who does not hide, who does not deny sacrifice, who is at peace with the truth. "I was building something," Ayesha began. "I had momentum. I had contracts. I had a team starting to form. I was going to launch a line. But then you were born." You can tell when there is a moment that is simple but devastating. Riley listened in silence. "I remember the moment," Ayesha continued. "You were 3 days old, and I was watching you sleep. And I thought, what am I building in that office? What is the point of corporate success?" And I realized, success without family is just a hollow achievement. It is wind. It is nothing. You can tell when there is a person who makes peace, with a choice through clarity. Not through resignation, but through a deep understanding of what really matters. "I made a choice that night," Ayesha said. "I chose you. I chose your sister. I chose to build a life with your family. And I do not regret that." But then Ayesha said something important that changed everything. But Riley, I grieve it. You can tell when there is a person who can distinguish between regret and grief. They are completely different things. What do you mean? Grief? Riley asked. I mean, Ayesha said slowly, that there are days when I look at things I could have built professionally. There are days when I see women in the industry that I could have been part of. There are days when I think I would be satisfied if I were in a different position. And I am sad about this. I grieve for the person I could have been. You can tell when there is a mother who is honest, who does not pretend that sacrifice does not exist or does not hurt. But, continued Ayesha, grief is not regret. Grief is honoring what you let go. When you let go of something important, it is appropriate to be sad. It is appropriate to honor what you have lost. But being sad does not mean that you chose wrong. You can tell when there is a person who understands the complexity of human choices. Riley felt tears coming. Mom, why didn't you ever tell us? Ayesha looked at her child with compassion. Because it was not your responsibility to carry guilt for my choices. You were children. You needed only to be loved. If I had told this when you were small, you would have grown up carrying guilt. Guilt for existing. Guilt that I had to sacrifice to be with you. And that would have been cruelty. You can tell when there is a mother who protects children not just with presence, but with emotional wisdom. I needed you to grow up free. Free of guilt. Free to enjoy childhood. Free to follow your own paths. The guilt was mine to carry, not yours, Riley cried now, but not in a dramatic way, in a deep way, because Riley finally understood her mother. You can tell when there is a child who finally sees a mother not as a character in his drama, but as a person with her own complete journey. Mom, did you ever regret? Ayesha considered the question carefully. Regret means wishing you had done something different. No, I do not wish I had done something different. Because if I had done something different, you would not exist. At least not as you are. The life that we have would not exist. And this life, this family, is greater and better than any corporate success would have been. You can tell when there is a mother who chose and continues to choose every single day. But, said Ayesha, there are moments when I think, what if I had found a way to have both things? And the answer is, maybe I would have. Maybe I would have found balance. Maybe I would have built a career while being a mother. But I did not. And instead of becoming bitter about this, I honor what I let go and celebrate what I gained. You can tell when there is a person who made peace with life through conscious honoring of sacrifice. Riley looked at his mother in a new way, not as a mother who sacrificed, but as a woman who made a choice, a real choice, with eyes open to the cost. Thank you for telling me this, Riley said. I wish you had told us this when we were older, so we could have thanked you explicitly. Ayesha embraced her child. Well, you can thank me now. You can tell when there is a moment that is sacred, when a child finally can offer to a mother what the mother never asked for. Explicit recognition. Mom, I see what you sacrificed. I understand the cost, and I am deeply grateful. Not because I feel guilty, but because I understand what you chose, and how you chose, and why you chose. And this is the most noble thing I have ever seen. You can tell when there are words that a mother waited years to hear. Ayesha cried. Not because it was drama, because it was validation of an entire life. Riley, this means everything. Not because it proves that I was right, but because it means that you see, that you understand, that you honor something that I never asked to be honored. You can tell when there is a mother who sacrificed in silence, and finally can let that sacrifice be seen. Because you know when there is a moment that changes the relationship between a father and a daughter. When a daughter realizes that her father is a complete person with his own regrets? After the conversation with Isha, Riley needed to talk with Steph. Not because Steph needed a defense, but because Riley needed to know. Did he know? Did he understand? Did he see what Isha had done? Riley found Steph in a private space. "Dad, I talked to Mom about her sacrifices. I need to ask you something." You can tell when there is a moment that is a test, when a daughter is about to ask a question that will reveal much about how a father thought. Steph looked at his daughter, and Riley saw something in his face that she had never seen before. Vulnerability. "Did you know? About all the things she gave up?" Steph took a deep breath. "Yeah, I always knew." You can tell when there are three words that change everything. "How did you know?" asked Riley. Steph sat down. "Because I was there. I saw her saying no to opportunities. I saw her leaving the phone for important people not to call back. I saw her building a life that was about us, not about her. I saw her sacrifice." You can tell when there is a man who understood but did not verbalize. "And you never said anything?" asked Riley. Steph looked at his daughter. And in that moment, Riley saw a vulnerable father. "This is something that I have to tell you," said Steph. "Something I have to process out loud. Because understanding and verbalizing are very different things. You can tell when there is a man who is about to confess something that has bothered him for years." "I always knew what Isha sacrificed," began Steph. "From the beginning. I watched her leave one contract, then another, then another. I did not ask her to do this, she just did. And instead of saying, 'Honey, thank you for sacrificing this for us,' I just assumed that she already knew that I knew. You can tell when there is a man who commits a common mistake, assuming that silent understanding is sufficient communication. I thought, if she knows that I love her, then she knows that I see what she is doing. Then she does not need me to say it. But Riley, this was a mistake. You can tell when there is a person who realizes a truth too late, because understanding that is not verbalized is almost as good as understanding that does not exist. Your mother does not need me to tell her to live her own life, but she deserved to hear, 'I see what you are doing, and I am grateful beyond words.' And I never said this completely." Riley saw her father become emotional. "Dad, do you think Mom knows?" Steph thought about it. "I think she knows that I love her. But there is a difference between 'he loves me' and 'he understands and honors the magnitude of what I sacrificed.' And I should have verbalized this daily. You can tell when there is a father who is processing regret not about having loved, but about not having said that he loved in a way that was complete." "You know what is the most difficult," continued Steph, "is that now you have discovered this? Now your mother knows that you know, and this opens a door for a conversation that should have happened years ago. When she was younger, when the sacrifices still hurt more. You can tell when there is a father who carries guilt for not being vocal in the past." Riley looked at her father with new understanding, because Riley realized it was not that her father did not care. It was that her father had not understood the importance of verbalizing what he had understood. "Dad, you can still say it," said Riley. "Now, today. You can still make this right. You can tell when there is a daughter who offers a father an opportunity for renewal." Steph looked at his daughter. "You are right. I can. And I will. Because this is something that your mother deserves. Not just to be loved silently, but to be honored vocally. You can tell when there is a father who understands the power of words. Riley, this is an important lesson that I want you to carry through life. When you love someone, do not let silent understanding be enough. Say, verbalize, honor. Because the people you love need to hear, not just to know. You can tell when there is a father who is offering a daughter wisdom acquired through regret. Riley embraced her father, and in that moment, there was a mutual understanding. It was not that Steph did not love Ayesha. It was that Steph had made the common mistake of men, assuming that action is sufficient communication, that being there is enough, that love can be silent. But some sacrifices deserve to be honored out loud. You can tell when there is a moment that is transformative. When a father and daughter are finally aligned in an important truth, Ayesha deserved to be told that she was seen, understood, and honored. "Dad, I have an idea," said Riley. "We should do something. Something that honors Mom. Something that is explicit, vocal, real." Steph looked at his daughter. "What do you have in mind?" "I do not know yet, but something that says to Mom, 'We see you. We understand you. We honor you.'" You can tell when there is a daughter who wants to restore the injustice of years of silent sacrifice not being recognized. Steph looked at his daughter with pride. "Riley, you inherited something from your mother, the ability to love completely. And now you have the wisdom to understand the price of that love. This is a rare combination. You can tell when there is a father who sees his daughter in a new way, as an adult person who understands important values. Let us do this. Let us honor your mother in a way that she will never forget. Let us say out loud and clear what she means to us. You can tell when there is a moment that is decisive, when a father and daughter decide to repair the mistake of years through explicit and vocal action. Because you know when there is a moment that is sacred, when a family decides to honor its own history, when invisible sacrifice finally is seen. Steph and Riley decided to do something. It was not grandiose. It was not public. Ayesha would hate it if it were performative, but it was significant. It was intentional. It was real. They organized a simple dinner, just the three of them, at home, privately. You can tell when there is a moment that is prepared with purpose, when a ritual is being created to honor something important. Ayesha did not know why she was being invited, just knew that Steph and Riley wanted to be together, that there was something important they wanted to share. You can tell when there is a mother who feels that something has changed, that something has been understood. They sat around the table, and then Steph began to speak. "Ayesha, Riley discovered some things about you, things that you never told us explicitly. You can tell when there is a man who is about to say something that he should have said years ago. About the sacrifices that you made, not just in the early years, but continuously, all the years." Steph took a deep breath. "And I realized something that is difficult to admit. I always knew, but never said." You can tell when there is a man who is offering a vulnerable confession. "I saw you leave one opportunity, then another, then another. I did not ask you to do this. You just did. And instead of saying thank you, I understand what you have done, I just assumed that you already knew that I knew. And this was a mistake, a big mistake." You can tell when there is a person who is finally verbalizing and understanding that she held silently. Because understanding that is not stated is little better than understanding that does not exist. You deserve to hear every single day that I saw you, that I honored you, that I was grateful beyond words. And I never said this completely." Ayesha already had tears coming. But Steph continued, "So I want to do this now, here, in front of our daughter. Ayesha, I love you not just as a wife. I honor you as a woman who made a choice, a conscious choice, a choice that cost more than you ever let show, and a choice that you never used as an emotional weapon, never used to make us feel guilty, never used to victimize yourself. You just lived, with grace, with love, with peace. You can tell when there are words that are so true that the world stops. And I am deeply, deeply grateful. Steph looked at Ayesha and Riley saw her father cry. Really cry. In a way that she had never seen before. You can tell when there is a man who finally allows himself to be vulnerable about regret. Then Riley spoke. Mom, you taught me without knowing that you were teaching. You showed me what it means to love completely. What it means to sacrifice without dramatizing. What it means to make peace with choices. When I discovered what you sacrificed, I did not feel pity for you. I felt admiration. Because I understood that you chose. Every day, even when it hurt. You can tell when there is a daughter who offers a mother recognition that is pure. Mom, when I am a mother, I want to be like you. Not because I want to sacrifice, but because I want to love in a way that is complete, that is conscious, that is honored. You are the best example I have. Ayesha was crying now. Completely crying. Because she was being seen. Completely seen. By two people who she loves most. You can tell when there is a woman who sacrificed in silence and finally can let that sacrifice be honored. I have something that I want to say, said Ayesha. You can tell when there is a mother who is about to be honest about her complete journey. When you were born, I made a choice. And it was a real choice. I knew what I was leaving behind. I knew that there would be days when I would feel grief for the person I could have been professionally. And there were. There were many such days. But there is not one day when I regretted. Because sacrifice is not regret. Grief is something different. Grief is honoring what you let go. You can tell when there is a mother who can hold both truths. I sacrificed, and I do not regret. What you just did, listening to me be honored for what I chose, this is something that I never expected, never asked, and never thought that I would receive. Because I did not sacrifice to receive recognition. I sacrificed because I loved you. But hearing you verbalize this changes something. This seals something. You can tell when there is a person who receives honor that she waited for years. This seals the fact that my choices mattered, not just for me, but for you, that you see, that you understood, that you honor. Steph and Riley embraced Ayesha simultaneously. And in that moment there was not just a family. There was a deep mutual understanding. You can tell when there is a moment that is transformative. When invisible sacrifice finally is seen. Weeks later the conversation continued to resonate. Because that moment not only honored Ayesha, it transformed how Riley understood relationships. How Riley understood love. How Riley understood the importance of verbalizing gratitude, and it transformed how Steph lived daily. Because now he verbalized. Now he said. Now he did not let silent understanding be enough. You can tell when there is a moment that echoes through generations, when the story of one family touches the universal. Because in every home, there is a mother who sacrificed silently. In every home, there is a son or daughter who is finally understanding. In every home, there is a husband who understood too late that understanding without verbalization is insufficient. And in every home, there is an opportunity to do what Steph and Riley did. Honor. Verbally, explicitly. Because mothers who sacrificed in silence deserve to hear out loud. We see you. We understand you. We honor you. You can tell when there is a message that is universal, that touches all generations. And this is what Steph, Riley, and Ayesha had created. Not just a private moment, but permission for the world to do the same. Permission for other families to have their own honoring conversations. Permission for adult children to finally understand sacrifices. Permission for husbands to finally verbalize understanding. Permission for mothers to finally be honored. You can tell when there is a moment that is more than the drama of one family, when it is a mirror for millions of families. And this is exactly what had happened.